Okay, this is a response video for Randy at Cheap Audio Man. Love you, man. Love your videos. But recently went on a rant about how audiophiles are full of shit, right? And I have some things that I want to contribute to what he's saying. I think the biggest reason why your video is so popular is because people want to get into audiophile scene on a budget. And I do agree with you that it's nice, giving people the options and showing them exactly which audio equipment is better, for a given price at a lower price of entry is a really nice thing. But, in a good comparison for that is like how people think Bose these days is such a great brand and sounds so amazing, when the reality is they actually sound like shit. You could probably get in yourself something way better, like a set of ELAC speakers with a topping DAC or something like that with a topping amplifier, and it'd be a way better setup than a Bose setup, and that is actually audiophile. That is getting people into something that is better. But what I would consider to be audiophile is something like where you starting getting into diminishing gains. And what I mean by that is that there's a huge difference between a set of $200 or $300 bookshelf speakers and a set of $800 speakers that are bookshelf. And I think once you start getting into those elevated regions, you can go from 800 to 2,000 to 3,000, and there's a smaller and smaller difference between what you're getting at a low end versus an $800 speaker. So you get in at the low end and you go to a $2,000 speaker, you're blown away. You go into something like a set of Paradigm mini monitors, and then you go in, which are $600-700 in the day. I can't remember. I've been out of the audio scene for a while. I was very heavily into it from like the 1990s to about 2005. But you get into a set of Paradigm mini monitors back in the day, and they're questionably as good as like a set of $2,500 speakers from a reputable brand like BMW or whoever else. And I was lucky enough to grow up in the area where hi-fi stores were a big thing, so I got to audition a lot of those equipment, which trained my ear as to the actual subtle differences between low-end gear and high-end gear. And there is a difference. There's a big difference. And what I would say, get in. If you're going to get in and you actually enjoy yourself at a lower price point, you'd be well served to get into something a little more expensive. A good example of that, and I'm thinking about doing videos with old gear. I've got a set of Paradigm mini monitors, version 1, version 6. I've got the Mirage FRX series, the towers and the small speakers, Paradigm Monitor 9s, Definitive Technology bookshelf speakers, the CAF LS50, etc., etc. So I've got a lot of the old school gear. I've been dabbling again in some of the newer stuff, and I've just been finding that my ears are so tuned to the old gear that I just don't like the new gear. And what happened was there was a time frame, I think it was about 2005 to 2008, where just literally everybody that I knew that was in the audiophile scene, and whatever you want to call audiophile again, we started to notice a big difference in the quality of the amplifiers, the speakers, etc., etc. And this is about the time where Mirage was bought out by Klipsch and Energy was bought out by Klipsch. They made really high-end brands, high-end speakers. They sounded amazing, and Klipsch bought them out, and they just started throwing out junk. And it was around the same time car and home audio, a lot of the suppliers like Sony, they went from their elevated standard stuff to China stuff. And then you'd see car audio, you would have companies like PPE, which were amazing amplifiers back in the day, and they started outsourcing their stuff to China, and literally everything sounded like crap. And nobody I knew upgraded any of their old setups because they sounded like crap. Like nobody liked it, nobody enjoyed it, and ironically, that seemed to be about the same time MP3 started getting a lot of traction. And you know, to this day, I still have the same setup, the same Yamaha AV receiver, the same paradigms, the same Mirage, because it just, to me, it sounded better. And you know, that's, I think, why China's got such a bad reputation these days. You know, anybody who was into audio back in those days, we just immediately said everything China is garbage, which it actually was garbage. Today, it might be different. For me, I've heard a few Class D amplifiers, and I can't get on board on that train. I just think too many people are on the Class D hype train, and I just find it's almost like, if I could throw it into a phrase, it's almost like when I listen to audio through a Class D amplifier, it's like watching a TV and turning your sharpness all the way up. And what you see is the pixels on the screen. And that's kind of like the vibe I get when I listen to a Class D amplifier. It's over sharpened. It's not natural sounding, you know, to where you can hear the timbre and stuff. Nothing is that sharp in real life. But again, that's just maybe my bias on it. Maybe I just haven't heard the right Class D amplifier yet. You know, because I'm just starting to roll back into this stuff right now. I do enjoy the Class AB stuff, and like I said, I've got a lot of old school gear, and maybe what I'll do is I'll start ABing old school, new school, and give people some advice, because I think if you really want to get into the audiophile scene on a budget, the best thing to be doing is to be buying and repurposing old speakers that sound fucking amazing. I guarantee you some of my old speakers, like those Paradigm Minis, will blow the doors off a lot of the newer stuff. And I don't think people have a frame of reference anymore. And there's nothing, I picked up my Mirage FRX 700s, which are fucking amazing speakers. And they cost me $250. Those are $800 each back in the day. And an amazing sounding speaker, absolutely amazing sounding speaker. And you know, I would love for people to audition them. Like the mids are just, it's just like, I've never heard a speaker like this before. But you know, that's a lot about why things are the way they are. And if people want to get in an audiophile on a budget, buy an old amp. Buy an old AVR receiver. What is this? SMSL Class D. Man, I got a friend who purchased an old Yamaha AVX 2092, 150 watts a channel, no distortion, clean as all hell. He went on eBay and found it for $200. That receiver, I guarantee you, you want to upgrade it, it's got a optical input on it, go ahead, get yourself a new DAC. You know, I agree. There's a reason why DACs sound better than others. It's also why you use an R2R DAC and was an $1,800 DAC. There is a sonic difference between low-end gear and high-end gear. And you know, I don't know how far we come. I think we actually may have gone backwards a little bit when everything went China, and now China, 15 years later, is starting to catch up. So it's pretty good, you know, but it's still not where it left off at, I would say, about 2005. You know, I mean, you can take that for what it's worth. In regards to what you're listening to, it doesn't matter what you're listening to. I'll listen to MP3s to this day. I still think a CD sounds better. It definitely sounds better. 100%, unequivocally will sound better. And I believe I watched a video with you where you actually admitted that. Will I still listen to MP3s? Absolutely. Am I still an audiophile? Absolutely. But the idea is, to make your source material sound as good as humanly possible. So that's why, I mean, you can get a shitty MP3, but if you want, it's better throwing it on a better system than on a cheaper system. And obviously there's other things like MP3 quality and whatnot that will have a direct impact on that. But those are the sort of things, like you can get a shitty mastered album, and you know, it is what it is. I mean, I have parties all the time with that same stereo setup, and people rock out to it. And you know what I'm doing? I'm playing YouTube on it. Sounds fantastic. But I remember one day, you know, that I had some people saying to me, "Oh, your system sounds fucking awesome." And I'm playing YouTube through it. I go, "Well, do you really want to hear this?" And you know, there's a couple people, and we're sitting around, and I was like, I threw on a CD that I knew was mastered good, and I'm like, just listen to this. And I still remember it was Madonna. I forget the song, but this girl was starting to cry, you know, crying, emotional response by listening to this music and just hear and being part of that music. That's when you know you're getting into some audiophile style shit. You know, when there's an emotional reaction, you're actually part of that music. I would, if I were somebody these days, I would totally embrace looking up some old gear. That stuff is sitting around somewhere, and somebody else's garbage is your gold. You know, and you know, that's the way to really get in on a budget. Is China crap these days? I don't know. I ordered myself Yamaha WXA50 and SMSL, whatever, DA9 amplifier, DA9 or SU9, whatever the amplifier is with the balanced inputs in the back. And I'm going to do some more critical listening and compare it to a couple of my old school amplifiers and AVRs, you know, and then we'll see what we see. But if I can buy an old school 150 watt AVR with a 24-bit DAC already in on it, optical inputs, phono inputs, CD inputs, TV inputs, and loaded to the tilt, AB outputs, 5.1 channel surround, you know, I think the 2092 has 7.1 channel, and the guy picked it up for $200. What are you gonna, like, why would you even think about that? Why buy SMSL? Oh, well, there is reasons. SMSL is smaller, more compact, more efficient, and that's the reason why I need one, because I'm going to a solar powered house, and there's no way I can bring a big amplifier in there. So I want to furnish my solar powered house, which is a smaller footprint house, with a more efficient amplifier. Or if you're in a smaller room and you don't want all the clutter, you don't have room for a big AVR, then obviously that's the way to go, and that's why I'm playing with the new gear these days. But for everybody else, if you got, you know, there's nothing worse than audio waste, but at the same time, it's good to support companies that are trying to be innovative and bring new products to the marketplace. And, you know, for the intended purpose, by all means, that's, you know, look what I'm doing. Definitely help them out. And, you know, I bought a X8 Magic DAC, and I'm going to be playing with that versus how it sounds with my Yamaha CD player, old school. Because I've got an optical out, and it's actually got coaxial out, so I'm going to play to see if the old school CD player sounds better or the DAC sounds better with upgraded op amps and without upgraded op amps, versus what's in the CD player and versus the 24-bit DAC that's in my AVR. So we'll see. You know, I hope audio has made a comeback, and I'll say it's kind of regressed a little bit, but that's part of being an audiophile, right? And what I would say the biggest thing about an audiophile is loving it, having an interest in quality sound, and try to maximize your setup no matter which price range, and experimenting and seeing what works for you. So do your thing, everybody. Remember though, your options aren't just limited to new hi-fi on a budget. You can get an RXV 2092, which retailed for $2,500, or in Canada where I'm from, which that's a lot of money for back then, and you can get into that for $200. So think about that, and like those, you could buy a set of Paradigm Mini monitors for $150, and those were $800 for a pair, $900 for a pair back in the day, and they sound phenomenal. So that's also something to think about, everybody. Check it out, eBay. People are selling them. People want to give you a good experience. Like I said, somebody's garbage is somebody else's gold. Take care, everybody. That's what I want to say. Enjoy your day.